So we are here at day 2 of BETT, and we're going to be interviewing 2 important people at BETT. One very, very important person, and then his dad. But tell us who you are and what you've been doing here at BETT on day 1.
I'm Hannan. Yesterday at BETT, at the Design for SDG challenges, I created ChangeMakerz, which is a new program that will be released on Earth Day, 22nd of April.
Amazing. So, if you, in your typical understated way, we've met a couple of times before, typical understated way, yeah, we launched something at BETT. Like, it wasn't just launching something at BETT, was it? Dad, tell us a little bit about where you launched it and what that looked like.
So yeah, my name's Hannan, founder of Innovation X and Design for SDGs. We had a great opportunity to work with schools over the past 12 months. Zach also co-hosted last year, so to try and elevate his experience over the last 6 months, we had a bit of a chat about how sustainability connects with his own kind of personal journey and why it's important to be responsible, and then how that could influence some of the kids moving forward. So we came up with this brand called ChangeMakerz. The goal behind it is somebody who's of the younger generation might be able to connect a little bit easier with children of the same age, and therefore hope to inspire them to consider being a bit more responsible for a better tomorrow.
Why is that so important to you then, Zach, as a young person?
Because the new generation is basically, if the new generation doesn't do anything important, the world could probably be ruined by it. So I think that, like, when children start young, it's good so that they know when they're older what to do.
Yeah, and I think I read with my daughter the little books, Big People. I think that's the right way about it. But Greta Thunberg and everything else, and talks about the fact that she was doing all of that work, but around her agenda or the global agenda, but also the fact that she just basically stood and said we can't rely on adults. They've had a long time to think about it and actually make action. So at times you've then got the young people who it will be left to make that impact and stand up. So Ivo, I don't know if you want to kind of talk to that in terms of how you've tried to navigate a rebel ideas thinking young man in your son, and how you're just there basically as a parent just to support his ambitions and aspirations.
I think the journey started quite early on with Zach, really. I think I went to New York for the first time in 2017 to speak, and I remember when I did a video called Zach when I was in New York, and he was like, when can I come? And then subsequently in 2019 I did the same thing. Obviously wasn't able to take Zach. So in the back of my mind I always knew I wanted to bring Zach, and then my other 2 children as well at some point, into the fold of what I do. And because of that, this has opened up these opportunities and conversations about creating an idea and driving it forward with a level of confidence. Yeah. Because his involvement in Design for SDGs, now as an ambassador, but also been able to see what I do and how much I care about what I do, and that passing on to what influencing really and possibly inspiring him to think, well, I can also achieve those things. And now he's got his own brand, and he's going to be talking about it today on the Smart Stand as well. And it's great because it means that others are going to be inspired to do big things as well, because they can see somebody as young as Zach, who's still 11, pushing boundaries. So what else can all those hundreds of kids that were there yesterday, what are they going to now do? And they're already there on the main stage sharing their ideas, and they did it with so much confidence that I think it's starting to look a little bit, we're starting to feel a little bit brighter about everything, aren't we, mate?
We saw you on the main BETT arena, so 30,000 people have come through BETT, and you were on the main arena as an 11-year-old, which is incredible, 2 years running. and then also launching your own brand this year. But the whole conversation around design for SDGs and the idea of them sustainable development goals are about how we work collaboratively to make a difference. And this is a key part of that, right? About making that a difference. And we've been asking everybody whilst we've been here. We asked a young person who's same age as you, 11, who was one of the speakers at the BETT Awards last night, Laura. It's incredible, incredible that we're listening to young people and thinking, wow, we're speaking in front of hundreds and thousands of people with confidence and about something they're really passionate about. But we asked them, and we asked other people about the future of education. Now, we're old folks. Us and your dad, we're old folks, Zach, and
Speak for yourself, mate.
and we have got an idea about what education should be like. But I wonder for you, and then we'll ask Dad, because it's important we hear your views. What do you think, or what do you hope for the future education? Not just your education, but education.
I hope that the schools become more sustainable, because at the moment, maybe fund more solar panels so that the schools are actually doing something to change, as well as the kids.
And then a focus on sustainability, thinking about what that looks like going forward, right? Yeah. Dad? Is there anything you would, obviously you're going to go, yeah, he's absolutely bang on. Is there anything you would add? What's your hope for the future of education?
I personally think education needs to be a lot more focused on the skills that need to be developed for the economy of the future. I think, as an educator of 20 years, I think there's a space there that's missing, where we expect kids to study subjects, come out with grades, and then all of a sudden be ready for a workforce, but the subjects don't get them ready for the skills that are required for them to be able to add to the economy through the work that they do. Those skills, there's a skills gap, there's a skills shortage. People have been speaking about it for decades. I think that gap needs to be filled in education, particularly in secondary school, which is obviously what Zach's just joined. He's now in year 7. So when they get to working age, they don't have that level of intimidation. They're ready, and that includes obviously the future of technology, AI, robotics, as well as sustainability and green skills as well. That is the future, isn't it? So getting them ready now so they can serve the economy, they can serve the betterment of humanity is I think what we should all be looking.
Cool. Well, it's been a pleasure. It's always good to be inspired by people like you, buddy. So thank you for giving us the time this morning, and also thank you for doing what you're doing, because there's a lot of 11-year-olds that are probably gaming or TikTok or thinking about football or whatever else, but you're trying to do something that's going to make a difference. And here, speaking on main stage, we're super proud of you, but also grateful that you're stepping up and doing that, mate. So well done, and well done, Dad, for bringing him and getting him involved in the journey. Thanks for joining us on the Edufuturists podcast.
Yeah, thank you, guys.
Well, it is great to be here on day 2 again at BETT, and being joined by a wonderful friend of the podcast for many, many years, and we're at the wonderful, again, NetSupport stand, and you got some news yesterday. Katie, tell us a little bit about you and your role, and then we'll talk about NetSupport and what you won last night.
Yeah, sure. So I'm head of marketing for NetSupport, and I've been with the company for about 10 years. It's just such a cracking company to work for. My boss is Al Kingsley, who I'm sure many people already know is a wonderful man, and
winner of 2023 Edufuturist of the Year as well.
Exactly, indeed. And so my job really is just to help kind of promote the products out to schools, really ensure kind of our customers know about updates, new features, kind of what we're planning for the future. And really, at the end of the day, it's all about helping schools maximise their EdTech, making sure EdTech is accessible, affordable, flexible, and really that's kind of what we're committed to. That's our kind of #1 commitment, I'd say.
Yeah, and anybody who knows Al and knows the work that's in there, I've said this multiple times on the podcast and outside the podcast, that my first ever gig outside of the teaching gig was a paid gig was from Al, and Al supported, and there's loads of us that are in that space that he's supported and championed very, very quietly. His name's on the back of my book. He was the first reviewer of it, first person I wanted to send it to. He's just one of them people that you know is one of the good guys.
Absolutely, yeah. He's always there to champion everyone.
Yeah.
You know, whether you're a brand new startup or you're, you know, very established. If you've got, you know, a voice and a good story, and he's really happy to share that and just kind of excel you into the market. So yeah, he's a great guy.
He's a good guy, and when you come on the NetSupport stand, if people still get a chance to come and have a look, or next time you're here, you realise actually NetSupport also, their stand is that. So the team from the ANME area and other partners that you just get to support and the champion. It's wonderful to see. So for those people who haven't heard of NetSupport and what you do, tell us a little bit about what the products look like. I know it's not all about products, but it's about a culture and the things that you do, but what are the products that sit in there?
Sure, so we mostly kind of work in classroom management, safeguarding and IT management. So we do have quite a portfolio of products, kind of both cloud and on-prem solutions. Again, hoping to kind of, you know, fit for kind of most schools. And it's really from, you know, everything from helping teachers, you know, better manage and support their kind of EdTech use in the classroom, helping, you know, students stay on track, which obviously we all know is a very difficult one to do, and being able to kind of, you know, monitor and manage and really, you know, boost their learning outcomes in a really positive way. Safeguarding is everything from, you know, keyword monitoring, making sure that schools can identify and support vulnerable students, and ensuring they've got an outlet as well to really kind of report any issues themselves as well, so kind of really empowering students and giving them a voice. And then through to IT management, so again, helping IT network managers or IT teams centralise and really manage their EdTech to kind of maximise it, track its use, keeping costs, you know, low as well, so identifying areas where maybe they don't need as many licenses for a particular software, through to power management capabilities to again reduce, you know, power management costs, which again are escalating in schools everywhere. So there are kind of our three main kind of toolkits, I would say, that we work for. And again, everything from, you know, primary schools through to kind of higher education. And again, we're international as well, so obviously you'll know us from the UK, but we do have an amazing team in America, Canada, Germany, Japan, and then through our reseller network as well, we kind of do branch out quite worldwide. So yeah, it's definitely a growing company and a nice company to work for.
And one of those growth moments was celebrated last night at the BETT Awards, and we saw you there, and congratulations on that. Tell us a little bit about what that means and the award that you won last night.
Oh, it was an amazing moment, to be honest. Just because, you know, it's BETT, it's a BETT award, you know, I think it's something that any company would strive to achieve, really. And it's so nice to be recognised by BETT, you know, for, you know, delivering solutions that, you know, are affordable, are impactful, you know, evidence-based. So I think that was really just a nice kind of, you know, pat on the back from them to us, you know, just for, I think, just achieving those goals.
And it's for Classroom Cloud particularly?
It was for Classroom Cloud in particular. So yeah, it was just a really nice moment. Got to go up on stage, do the speech afterwards. So yeah, it was our first award, but hopefully not the last.
Amazing, amazing, well done. So the question we've been asking a lot of people, like realistically, nobody can get a crystal ball out and say what the future of education looks like. But so we don't ask what's the future of education, because nobody really knows, and especially with those two letters that have come everywhere, and everybody's saying, oh, that's the future. We know that the conversations are in that space, we know. But we're asking people what their hope for the future of education is, and I know, yeah, I wonder what your thoughts are about the hope for the future of education, and maybe what NetSupport's hope is.
I think for us, it's making it accessible to everyone in every school. So EdTech is wonderful for enhancing teaching and learning, you know, IT management. It's a great asset to have. And I think sometimes, you know, we get so bogged down in having so many features or releasing the latest thing, you kind of forget that you just need to ensure you have something that a teacher is confident and excited and happy to use, or a techie or a safeguarding lead. They're not stressed about using it, and for them, they see the benefits. And again, you know, making it accessible for kind of any person in any learning situation. So yeah, I think it's just making anything easy to use and accessible. For us, I think they're always our goals, no matter what product we release.
Yeah.
We want to make sure that it's fun and exciting and useful, impactful for the people using it.
Amazing. Well, it's always good to see a friendly face. It's always good to see the good people being celebrated, and thank you for joining us on the Edufuturists podcast, and also thank you for your ongoing support of what we do. It's always really, really appreciated. So enjoy the rest of the final couple of days here, and we'll see you again very, very soon.
Amazing. Thank you very much, Ben. It was so nice to see you.
Well, day 2 of BETT. We've done some great interviews already, but none better than interviewing the real Ben Whitaker, and he's a wonderful colleague and supporter of Edufuturists for a long time. We've known each other a long time. Rick Cowell from ANME. Tell us a little bit about ANME and what you're doing here at BETT.
So it's a professional networking group in a nutshell. We are all for network managers, IT directors, IT technicians employed directly by schools, trusts, colleges and universities, and basically just trying to let them support themselves. So networking group, we do meetings around the country, about 25 meetings a year. We've got just over 1,800 members at the moment, mainly in England. We've got a few in Scotland, a few in Wales. And yeah, we do the meetings. We've got an online portal for them to support each other at any time. And it's all free to join. It's free to join, free to attend our meetings. And yeah, it's I'm biased obviously, but it's a great community of really supportive people that just want to help each other out.
Yeah, and ANME have always been a partner with Edufuturists for a while around championing network managers and those IT support spaces, and we know that the value of a network like this is the collaboration, the community working together. And Ben, you're part of that community. You work in IT and networking and that space, right? So you've benefited from that, but also then a part of that. Tell us a little bit about your role.
So my role is as an ANME ambassador alongside Rick. You know, co-founded it sort of 10 years ago. I'm a great believer in that we're all in it together, and one of the sort of issues is lots of the IT professionals in quite a lot of cases work on their own. They don't always have other people to bounce ideas off. They don't have colleagues who can help them out. So where the ANME come in is that they've suddenly got this access to a good couple of thousand members that they can sort of bounce off. They can, or as we do with the portal, they can put on questions and they get a professional response that hopefully helps and guide them. And then we've had a gentleman come to us this morning just saying what a great resource it is, how it's really helped him out and got him out of a few sort of sticky situations because he's been able to go on the portal and look at experiences that other IT professionals have had. So yeah, it's really good.
And the amazing thing there is that collaboration. The future is about support, and it's not always about competition, right? And that's what's really powerful, because everybody's talking about what education, digital technology all looks like, and you guys are literally the thing that makes things work. And if it doesn't go through the safety and the checks that you guys put in and the infrastructure needs that you guys are thinking about, like, so AI is all well and good, and future education technology is all well and good, but it needs to work. Tech and pedagogy needs to work together in education, doesn't it? So I'm going to ask one last question, because I know that you're busy and there's lots of people waiting to see you as well. So we always ask about what do we see as a future of education. It's a crystal ball, but nobody really knows. So what do we think what's your hope in education?
I think it's seamless. So I think you've just touched on it there, the pedagogy is, so my role now is more being embedded within the academic team. So I go along to a lot of the academic meetings, and it's having the overview of how schools run. So I know the IT, I know the systems, but it's marrying them up with the academic and what the teachers want to do, and making sure it runs seamless and slick, and the experience that the teachers and the learners have works really well. We've seen before where, we put things in, but what kind of impact is it having if we don't have that understanding now? So I always say, we've come out of the darkness into the light,
yes.
Especially since COVID, and we're doing more and more. And I've seen more and more IT professionals, and especially my own experience, where we're sort of getting more involved in the teaching and the learning. And I think that's what we need. That's where I think the future is, that more of us need to be embedded within that.
Amazing. So That's great. Coming out of the darkness into the light, working together, seamless, the collaboration, you've got a network that do that together, and actually realising that it's not about a solution looking for a problem, it's about finding impact and measuring impact. So thank you so much for joining us on the Edufuturists podcast at BETT, and wonderful. The real Ben Whitaker, 1T as well. It's always a pleasure, my friend.
Yeah, you too.
And you, Rick. Cheers. Well, day 2 of BETT, and we are joined by a friend, somebody who I used to do some work with, Nicola Pearce from BenQ, Head of Education at BenQ. Do you want to just tell us a little bit about your role at BenQ?
Yeah, so my role is basically to work with multi-academy trusts, also to work with primary schools, independent spaces, anybody in the education sector, and obviously look at solutions for them and their schools.
Yeah, so and as you look across a mix of education and across sector, are you seeing, in regards to skills and for educators, are you seeing a need for more training around product to support educators around those skills to then support young people?
Absolutely, I think there's a kind of a real difference with schools and the levels they're at. And I think one of the things that we've definitely realised is that a lot of schools need some support and a bit of hand-holding to make sure that we're kind of putting the right technology in for them, but also helping them through kind of the process of getting trained, staff trained, etc. And making sure we kind of continue that partnership with the school. We're not just selling to them and kind of running away.
Yeah, absolutely, and obviously I did a little bit of work with you for 12 months, just over 12 months, and the mantra that was there was very much, and it's all over the stand, as people will see that at BETT, is education your way. So it's this idea of teaching your way, rather than we've got a product, you use, make everything fit our product. It's really great to see all the integrations that you've started working on, so Canva, the Google for Education for EDLA, some of the other wonderful partnerships that you've created. But that's not just a mantra, is it? So BenQ have been talking about this teach your way.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
So it basically means that any teacher can use what they're using currently, come along, and we will support that on the BenQ panels. So they can continue to teach, obviously, how they teach currently, but using a BenQ panel.
And what's wonderful about that, obviously, depending on what room you're in, you can scan in and you're logged in, all your stuff's there, quick and easy. You want IT that works, yeah, and technology that's supporting that. And I think we're having a lot of conversations about where education might go. And right now there is an equity conversation, and there's an opportunity for a range of solutions from BenQ, right? So whether you've got projectors that need upgrades, or whether you've got different size of boards, whatever else that looks like, you're trying to support in that. So in that the question that we've been asking a lot of people is, what's your hope for the future education? We can't always get a crystal ball out and go, what's education going to look like, because we don't know. But what's the hope, and what's the hope at BenQ really?
Good question, Ben.
Well, you're a governor, aren't you? You see, so you've been in that space as well, and you've worked in other educational organisations and seen a lot of that. And then obviously you see a lot of vendors in this tech space, right? Who, we've talked about this before, and not saying anybody in particular, but they're like the box sellers. You mentioned this earlier. Here's a piece of kit, it's done with, or you must follow our new ecosystem and our new management system. So I'm wondering if it ties into that. Is there something in that from your perspective?
Yeah, I think, we're, don't know really how to answer that.
I suppose the hope really is around, that I see, and maybe I'm not putting words into anybody's mouth here, but I see this conversation of, let's work together collaboratively.
Yeah.
We've got a solution, but it's
definitely about a collaborative working partnership with the schools, making sure that, like I say, we don't just sell them something, it's a product they're going to get used out, they know how to use it. I've been in so many schools where they've got panels on the walls, and there's this conversation around, we don't use the panels because we don't know how to, they've just been put on the walls and obviously kind of then left. And I think what we want to make sure is that teachers continue to kind of teach their own way on the panels. And that we're offering the school something that's also growable in terms of, sizable if you like, in terms of maths. So as they grow, the product can grow with them as well. So with DMS and AMS, and we've also got EDLA, and obviously the security side that offers as well with the BenQ panels.
Great, cool, yeah.
Yeah, and I think that whole thing in terms of that security piece, so making sure that we're securing the future of education for our young people, for our educators and everything else through technology, but also that security in regards to actually multi-factor, two-factor and all of those features that come prominent, and we have discussed with many different products and different providers that actually that importance of actually the integration of making sure that security and information and data is safe across.
I think it's a real key thing for schools at the moment. They're so worried about cyber attacks and security attacks, and obviously with the changes in KIXI, I think it's just again making sure that we are a secure panel, and the schools know that as well. It's that whole trust thing, like building that partnership and getting the trust with the schools that they can trust them, and we are working with them to achieve obviously what they want.
Absolutely, love it. Well, thank you for joining us on the podcast, and hope the rest of the final 2 days goes really well at BETT. So we are here at BETT Day 2, and another good friend of the podcast. Feels like we keep saying a good friend of the podcast, but good friend, full stop, not just of the podcast, with Louise Jones. Louise, most people who listen to the podcast will probably know who you are and what you do. Tell us a little bit about that, and then we'll talk about what the next steps are going to be.
Oh, thank you. So I'm the Chief Community Officer here at Thinglink, and my responsibility is really kind of managing our community certified trainers, certified creators, so educators who are looking at immersive learning experiences, so I support them. And I also look at our engagement and adoption as well, so I help people get the best out of the product, really.
Amazing.
Yeah, and I think your journey's been an interesting one. Educator, transformational partner, Googler, to now, but I think you found your space, that community building, that helping and caring for people, and I think I know that you work alongside a great product. And 2 seconds before we went on, I missed Ursula, but Ursula was here. Ula was here. But I think it's that thing of great product, but also what is the impact and how education, that community can not just can utilise it, but also the transformational effect it can have on young people, I think.
Definitely, and for the educators themselves, because I think we're better off investing in people who are part of a community, not just giving them swag, but also giving them opportunities. So we've offered to fund travel for people to go to events, things like that, but also celebrate them, recognise them, showcase them, whether it's in their country or elsewhere globally. So really taking their practice and putting a spotlight on it.
So not just giving free tote bags and pens to the community, actually allowing them to go and speak there and supporting them financially, because ultimately education and those people are giving up their time, so they need to be supported to do so.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, it's much more meaningful and authentic than just giving out free stuff. And
then Thinglink, many of our listeners already know, we talk about this quite a lot, that experiential multimedia, that the learning that happens with that. Tell us a little bit, if you could, in a nutshell, about Thinglink and its purpose and why you think that's really important in education.
Yeah, so I mean, Thinglink's quite old now. It's like 14 years, but it was born out of creating interactive learning experiences. So it was really easy for teachers to create their own content rather than take content off the shelf. So as it's grown up, it's gone from images, 360 images, 3D models, 360 videos, for example. And educators can then add layers of information, link them together to create their own virtual tours and escape rooms and immersive experiences, because it's all multimodal. So you've got audio, you can see, you can hear, it's got accessibility features, and it works across all devices. So if you want someone to experience that on a personal device, on a large screen, or even in an immersive space where you've got that kind of shared experience, as well as VR headsets. But I'm a real fan of that shared immersive experience and seeing people's reactions to the things that I've created. And I think what we're really focusing now is on the student creation. So imagine a school goes on a field trip. Okay, why not encourage the students to take loads of different types of media, do what you're doing, do a few interviews, take some 360 images, which they can then convert to photospheres and Thinglink, and recreate that field trip as a virtual field trip back at the ranch. And then they can share that with their parents, people can come in and experience it, and that's much more impactful than writing a book report about a virtual field trip.
Love it.
It's amazing. And also, if you think about the skills that are involved in that, there's like handling different types of media, but there's also the confidence in presenting, sharing. And then the other thing that we're doing is focusing on branch learning experiences, and I love scenario-based learning, because as we talked about the other night, real-world context, skills in a world of AI, when people can look at knowledge why not create your experiences which are in the right context with different types of media, and then create a problem that people have got to solve by answering different choices and then seeing the impact of those choices, the consequences of those choices in a safe environment. So it's the very essence of failure-based learning in a safe environment, and it's multimodal and it's accessible. The students can create that.
And we do this, and we've been doing this over the last couple of days in regards to crystal balling is always an interesting and a difficult thing for many people, and I'm sure
Mystic
we
Meg
could ask
loves
you.
it. Mystic
Yeah,
Meg loves
absolutely. But I think
Peg.
one thing that we've evolved this week is actually not what's your vision, what do you think, is what is your hope for the future of education?
So I am really, really hopeful, and we talked about the pick and mix model the other night as well, which is flexible, hybrid, on-site, off-site. But my vision is that yes, learning takes place off-site and we can do self-paced online learning, but schools become a place where people come together to have experiences, love, connections, relationships, see each other, see the non-verbal cues that we have by smiling to each other. That kind of learning and playful learning in that environment is where I think schools excel and teachers show their care and love for their pupils. I'm all about the love.
Love it.
You've got the love to see
I've
me
got
through.
the love.
Absolute way to finish.
Always.
What a pleasure. Love to have you on.
Thanks, Louise.
Thank you. Love you both.
Cheers.
So BETT Day 2, again, we are interviewing lots and lots of different people, and we are at the super busy Canva for Education stand, and we're joined by Jonathan. Jonathan, tell us about you and your role.
Yeah, lovely to meet you guys. So this is actually my first BETT, can you believe it? So I'm really excited to be here to meet you all. My name's Jonathan. I used to be a secondary high school teacher, teaching maths, so everyone's favorite subject, of course. And yeah, I was always passionate about how we can use technology. So, from the get-go, maths is kind of, we love our pen and paper, but I'm always thinking, how can we go further? How can we use and incorporate technology in the classroom? That's why I really love working with Canva. I'm a design educator here, so we make resources for teachers by teachers. A lot of us are ex-teachers from the classroom, and we think about how can we empower teachers to use Canva in their schools and with their students as well.
Yeah, and what you're seeing from those products and everything else you've been involved in, what you're seeing the influence and the impact on educators, but also learners across the globe, how are you seeing that? How are you seeing the development of skills across learners from some of those products?
Well, it's funny, so I've stepped outside of the classroom, but then I get this, amazing big picture view of what we're doing, and I just can't help but be inspired and encouraged, like seeing, all our communities, whether it's in the UK or a completely different market and what they're doing. I think it's really encouraging to see how they're actually empowering students, and seeing what they're creating with is so, I was at a primary school, my old primary school, and they were creating these like iPhone mock app, apps, and they were interactive and they could actually go through them, and it's so inspiring to see student ideas just come to life in the platform.
Yeah, and Canva is kind of synonymous in education now, because obviously founders are educators, believe in education, resources for educators, but also a community of people. Like, I'm privileged to be one of the ambassadors in the UK, and there's a whole gang of these all around the world. But you're building a community of teachers and people who are passionate about education, and then empowering that. Is that important to the role that you're doing?
I can't say how important. Like, how do I actually describe that? I think the best part is now that I'm not necessarily in the classroom, I think the channel that I get to see that is through the teachers. Yeah. And I think here, like, literally just being here and talking to teachers and hearing their stories, like, I can't help but be encouraged and know that the resources and things that we make for them is going to translate and speak to their students as well. So that I get to hear that from them, which is really encouraging.
So yeah, we do a lot of conversations, we do a lot of crystal balling. It's hard to then go, what is the vision for education? Right. What we're asking is, what is your hope for education?
Oh man, how do I answer this in more like that?
As honest as you possibly can.
Yeah.
What would you hope education would be?
I'm on, sorry, yeah. This is the last question. Yeah. Look, I think with technology just changing so many things, like, I think I don't want to remove us from the heart of what education is about. It's that connection between teacher and student. So, whether artificial intelligence is in play, whether we have, the amazing 21st century learning tools, I want to see how the connections between teachers and students develop and are actually empowered and improved through the use of the technology and platforms that we have today.
Amazing. Thanks so much for your time, Jonathan. Thank you.
Really Cheers. Okay, really great meeting you guys. Yeah, so good.
So, BETT Day 2, we're midway through the day, maybe a little bit past midway. We've interviewed lots and lots of cool people, and none more so than you can't see this. In fact, you'll see on the picture, there's these wonderful green overalls. I don't know if they're doing my size, but maybe they do. But we are here on the ClassDojo stand. We've got two people here. Do you want to tell us a little bit about you and your role, why you're here at BETT?
Yep. So I am Laura Dickinson. I am a ClassDojo ambassador, and so I have been for the last kind of 10 years. So I am a classroom teacher who uses ClassDojo, and I became part of their ambassador program about 10 years ago, and it's all about creating meaningful experiences, and with ClassDojo I can literally put the learning of the children who are in my class in their parents' pockets.
Amazing, amazing. And?
My name is Bridgette. I'm with the ClassDojo team. I'm one of the community managers. I have the wonderful task of being able to support all of our teachers as well as our wonderful international ambassadors. I am a past educator myself, so it's really special for me to be able to support our teachers who use ClassDojo and see the wonderful, inspiring stories that using ClassDojo really impacts their school. So super excited to be here. It's second year at BETT, and we love the energy, and yeah, I'm really excited.
Amazing. And spotted on some of the signage earlier, 180 countries at least that you're in. Yep. So this is not like a flash in the pan. This is something that's real. And I remember I left the classroom in like high school classroom. I left in 2017. Went into FE college after that. But in I don't know when this was, 2015, 2016, 2017. This is not a flash in the pan. It's been here. So one of the things is about you build community. That's one of the things that you're here for as part of. Like, what does that? What does community mean for a product like this? Because it is a product, but it's a learning tool. We know that. Yeah. But what does a community look like?
So for me, in terms of an ambassador kind of perspective, community to me is about being able to share our experiences and get that validation from not only people in our schools, but also right across the world. And I think because ClassDojo is such a powerful tool, and because it's free, schools are willing to kind of engage with it more. But as you say, there are so many products here today that you can kind of walk around and see, but ClassDojo is one that has remained constant, and it's because it's kind of built on that community. It's built on the validation of real teachers using it in their classrooms, and we can actually see the outcome. We can see how it works for our schools and our children.
And I've got two, a 10-year-old and a 14-year-old. The chair goes in a primary school. Everywhere you go, you know people talking about dojos, right? Yeah. So, and there's so much, and I know this is part of your organisation, how it's developed and what it's done. That validation, that really quick validation, that recognises you do your things you're on the right lines, things are moving. That positive feedback, that reinforcement. That's what this is about, right? And I suppose that works for educators, so you're in that community of that validation and support, but also for students as well, right? Is that important?
For sure. And I think that, building on what Laura just said, I think that it's really inspiring for our educators to be able to learn from other educators all over the world. Everyone has their unique spin on how they are using ClassDojo. Everyone, has their own unique tips and tricks of how they use ClassDojo. And I think that it's really amazing to just be inspired from one another and learn from one another. But I think too, just beyond the community of educators who use ClassDojo, I think when you talk about the school and family connection and relationships, really making sure that is a strong community as well. So yeah, we're all about that, all about that community building.
Very powerful. And I think that's why ClassDojo has that longevity, because it's always something that kind of comes back to the teachers and say, what do they need in the classroom, what's going to work, and all of that type of thing. And because ClassDojo listens, and lots of products out there are they come out and they say they're meeting the teachers' needs, but actually after a while they don't, where ClassDojo are committed to making sure that what goes on the classroom and what goes in ClassDojo works.
Amazing. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. The question we've been asking at the end of every one of these short interviews is we're Edufuturists, so we talk about future education, and sometimes that loses sight of what happens now. Yeah. And often we go, future education, what's it going to look like? And you put a crystal ball together and you go, nobody would have said those two letters that have become everywhere would be part of everything as quickly as they have. Yeah. Nobody would have talked about online learning. Nobody would have talked about those things because we didn't see that coming. Yep. So we're not asking the question of what do you see as the future of education. So the question we're asking is, what do you hope for education? What do you hope for the future of education?
I mean, what I hope for is that it continues to build on community and having those real tangible links, because I do think sometimes we're kind of forced down the virtual world, the AI world, and actually what we don't want to lose sight of are those real links that we make with people, because ultimately AI won't work and virtual reality won't work and all of those kind of future things won't work unless you have that community and those real links that are already established.
100%.
Sure, I agree, absolutely. I think that what I hope for is that, you know, as wonderful as AI is and as, you know, great as it is in the classroom for time-saving reasons, right? Those relationships, I feel as if, are more important than ever. We need to continue to build those really strong relationships, not just teacher to student relationships, but teacher to student to parent relationships and other family members, of course. It's more important than ever. None of that can be automated. That needs to be real human connection.
And nothing's going to take the place of a photo of your child with messy hands showing what they've made and how proud they are. That can never be generated by our AI. We need that real content coming through all of the time.
Absolutely. Well, it's been wonderful to speak to you at ClassDojo, and I bet good luck for the rest of today and tomorrow, and hopefully as that community builds we'll be able to share this and tell lots and lots of other people on the podcast about the great work that you're doing. So thank you.
Thank you so much.
Well, day 2 at BETT, and we are on the wonderful Microsoft stand, and we're really pleased to be joined by Sara Cornish. Tell us a little bit about you and your role.
Yes, so I work on Minecraft education. My role there is that I lead marketing, all the marketing and communications and storytelling. Minecraft education reaches millions and millions of learners and educators in more than 200 countries, bringing the power of game-based learning into classrooms with Minecraft. And so we've got teams that build content and curriculum that are taught with Minecraft. We work with partners all across education and with Microsoft to bring STEM solutions to teachers worldwide in AI, in computer science, in cyber safety, and more. And so it's a dream job.
Yeah, well, I was just about to say, it must be like one of the best jobs in education, especially when you're having them conversations around. I had a conversation with a student. I work as chair of governors as well, so one of my volunteer roles is chair of governors. I was speaking to students. I said, if you could design education, what would you like? He went, I want to do Minecraft. Like I wish it was old Minecraft. And I know that we've got to have balance, and it's about that. But what Minecraft is gone beyond the game, hasn't it? So gamification learning is obviously a theory, and it's been one of those buzz phrases. But actually, what Minecraft are doing is embedding learning first, and then the game supports that, right? Is that the process?
It's sort of the basis, yeah. And we didn't. The exciting thing about, I think, Minecraft education for young people is that we didn't change the base game experience very much, and so we kept true to, you know, the kind of open world sandbox game. We didn't change a lot of the interfaces. We just added educational features on top, and we purpose-built lessons and immersive worlds that help educators have a really easy job bringing Minecraft into their classroom. And so we're not asking teachers to become gamers, even though we'd welcome you gladly into the community. We're just asking teachers to be open-minded and you know, put your students first. Give them agency, give them the opportunity to express themselves and be creative, and let them learn in a space that they already love.
And I know that we talked about how Minecraft and the work that Microsoft are doing in that space around how it's developing creativity and coding. It's like they don't have to be separate things. It's not like somebody's a coder down that side and somebody's a creative because they like painting. Like creativity is a broad brushstroke. And so thinking about like creativity and coding and what Minecraft, because it is, it's about development, right? So the young people are developing those skills in that space. Is that right?
I love that. Yes, and as a game, Minecraft is so inherently creative. I mean, that's like our bread and butter. Players can build anything to their heart's content, you know, anything from their imaginations with blocks, and you know, an inventory of so many different exciting materials. They shape their own story. There's not a set, you know, prescribed set of characters or story in the game. And on the education side, we actually built in a feature called Code Builder that allows students to use MakeCode blocks or Python to execute their code into the game, basically bringing coding in as an element of creation. And so it allows students to, for example, if they're building a castle together with their classmates, they can write the code to build the moat and fill it with water, and maybe fill it with alligators or crocodiles. and it makes their life in the game a little bit easier. It helps them create some efficiencies and have a lot of fun. I think the most important thing about bringing together coding and creativity, like you're saying, is making coding relevant and really compelling and really delightful, like bringing joy to computer science, which helps bring a lot of people in, a lot of young girls and students that might not be kind of showing up for computer science class, but they lean in when they realize, oh, I can make art with code. I can I can design all kinds of amazing fun things and have a really good time.
Yeah, and just to pick up on something you said there, you were talking about student agency and autonomy, choice. You were talking about the idea that it's not a prescribed way, because you can create your own worlds, create your own experience, create your own adventure. And you talked about that, creating their story. And story is really important in education, especially each person's authentic story. Yeah. But also, like, where do you fit in a broader story? And the wonderful thing about a product like, and I say product, but it's fun, right? It doesn't feel like a product. Yeah. So is that, you said 200 countries, all these millions of people that are playing in this space. It's not just their individual story, it's the story that they then contribute to the wider picture. Yeah. And that's powerful.
It is.
And that's so exciting. And so as we move and think about what the future, nobody can get a crystal ball out and decide this is what the future of education is. Because would anybody have ever, maybe 10 years ago, suggested that we'd be doing Minecraft in education? Would 10 years ago people be talking about those 2 letters that are everywhere, and that's the only thing about the future of education? So we can't crystal ball it. Right. But what we are asking is around like the hope for the future of education, because Microsoft are invested. It's not just a financial investment, but there's so many in the communities, educator communities, development of teacher training and supporting, and that's, it's okay being a business in that space, but actually there's something that the company gives back and supporting and trying to develop where teachers are, helping teachers and helping students, right? So from the hope for the future of education, what does...
Yeah, and I was thinking about this yesterday and the kind of what happened within gaming, how, not too long ago, most video games were played on, you had to have a console or a PC with a big tower at home, and then all of a sudden mobile phones came along, and now people play games literally everywhere, at home, on the train, with their kids, maybe they're still playing on the couch or, in the basement, but now they're experiencing these game worlds everywhere. The same is happening with learning and with education. Learning happens everywhere. And I think what we've seen with this advent of AI is that not only is learning happening everywhere, but knowledge creation and knowledge development is starting to happen everywhere too. And so students have these tools at their fingertips now that, we didn't have anything like this. Nope. Rather than doing an internet search to prove their friends wrong about an argument, they can actually use AI to generate new information and synthesize information in an amazing new way. And so I think when I think about the future of education, especially when it comes to kind of Minecraft and what some of our mission is with Minecraft education, it's kind of going beyond digital literacy to digital creation and empowering young people with the skills and the agency and the curiosity to take their skills, take their gaming skills, take their coding and digital skills into the future where they can really thrive and have a voice, and that's what we want most right now.
And that's beautiful. That's such a beautiful way to think around education being about, rather than just about knowledge acquisition, retention, learning for that sake, that ability then to use that to create. And we know whether we debunk the theories around hierarchies of needs and skill sets and taxonomies, doesn't really matter. Ultimately, the fact that a young person can create, and the fact that a young person can tell their story and can be part of a big community of that, and then do that in a fun way. We interviewed a few people at the BETT show already, especially around gaming and esports, and you've kind of mentioned as well about the things that were historically in the basement, in the dark, on your own, now is a collaborative space, and that's what I'm hearing there, that agency and that creation. But together, not just for your own story, but for the big story. And that's beautiful.
Exactly.
So, Sara, thank you so much for joining us on the Edufuturists podcast, and we are excited to see where Minecraft education goes in the future and the difference it's going to make. So thank you.
Thank you, Ben. Nice to meet you.
So we're coming towards the end of day 2 at BETT, and we are super privileged and proud to be able to interview Louisa from Beyond. And I know you're going to tell us a little bit about that, but before we get even into that, I want to just
mention, last night we were at the BETT Awards, and Louisa and a very, very special young person, Lyra, who you've probably heard on one of the other podcasts that we've done when we've done some little snippets, spoke about the work that Beyond is doing and the impact that it's making. So me and Steve both straight away went, these are people that we need to connect with. And even though we'd had this booked in as a scheduled thing, as soon as you spot it, you go, these are people, right? So first of all, it's a thank you for the work you're doing, and it's a thank you for the work that you do that helps people like Lyra be able to tell her story. So thank you for that. Louisa, tell us a little bit about you and the work that you do at Beyond.
Thank you so much. Honestly, it's a total privilege to chat to you and to actually to meet you. And last night when you came up to us and you were like, oh, we've actually got something scheduled in tomorrow. And then I knew instantly. I was like, but you don't want to talk to me just now, do you? You want to talk to Lyra.
Sorry.
No, it was amazing. It's amazing. That's all I want. That's all I want. I want young people to be given a platform to be able to share their stories, and that's really everything that Beyond is about. So I guess I think it's always really important to kind of set the context for people as to why I'm involved in this, because I think it creates like a personal connection to the charity for me, but also I think it resonates with a lot of people, more people than we realise. So I've got my own mental health lived experience. I've always struggled with depression and anxiety. I've got something called non-verbal Tourette's and OCD, and I was in an incredibly dark place. I've been hospitalised, and unfortunately after a suicide attempt that very gratefully was not successful. And I think since then, which is when I was 28 then, I've been on a journey to just better mental health maintenance. And now I've got children, I realised very quickly that I wanted to do something with my working life that would contribute to them growing up in a world where access to mental health support is far better, far more open than it ever was for me when I was a kid, or anybody else that's in my sort of age cohort. And that's really why I got involved with Beyond. And I'll explain a little bit about sort of what happened in the pandemic, but I'll tell you just now what Beyond does. So Beyond is a youth mental health charity that just does everything it can to improve access to mental health support for young people, and we do it through 3 different programs that tackle prevention all the way through to intervention. We've created what we call an ecosystem of mental health support. On the prevention side, we address mental health education through the work of a national free online mental health festival that we host every single year during Children's Mental Health Week, and that gives access to thousands of educational settings, quite literally, to quality mental health materials from the sector that are often behind a barrier of some sort. And so we're really just opening up that access because we recognise that teachers find it really difficult to find those resources to actually deliver the mental health education that they want to deliver and that kids deserve. And then on the intervention side, we deliver bespoke, personalised mental health support from our approved network of suppliers across the whole of the UK to vulnerable children that need it the most. And that could be school counselling, it could be drama therapy, it could be anything. Whilst those kids have either been rejected from CAMS, which is Child and Adolescent Mental Health Services, or put on a ridiculously long wait list. And really that's what Beyond does. And what keeps Beyond ticking is its youth board, which sits at the very, very centre of our charity, and that is what Lyra is on. And she's our youngest youth board member. She's 11 years old. Was she not? She was so articulate, yeah, was she not?
She was amazing.
She was just incredible. And yeah, I mean, that they are the absolute heart and soul of Beyond. So they co-produce everything, all those programmes that I just talked to you about, all the way through to the content that we live stream on Festival Day, for example. They are there, they're part of it, because if we're not listening to what young people are saying, then we are not going to create a world that is going to benefit them or allow them to thrive.
Absolutely, absolutely. And when we think about amazing curriculum and we think about things that are technology and incredible things that we've seen at BETT, and there are some incredible
pieces of technology, pieces of curriculum ideas, assessment, personalisation of learning. But none of that matters if you can't get a child into school, or online, if it's an online space, or if they're not in an emotionally or psychologically safe place to be able to deal with that. And I suppose beyond as an organisation and the story, because I suppose, let me ask that question first. Beyond, the name Beyond, why Beyond?
Because labels and stigma and conversation are stopping us from actually making the change that is needed in society to better support kids. I say conversation, obviously we've made a lot of progress in the last 20 years talking about this, but we're not seeing the action. So Beyond is really just about going that extra mile. Being ambitious with your vision and actually just bold and risk-taking to just make something better. And it's kind of why we stay away from the policy side of things. We support loads of our partners in the policy space, and we support them with their work. But we're really clear at Beyond that we want to make a tangible difference on the ground. And I think unless we're bold enough to say that that is our lane, then we will never achieve what we really hope to. So I think it's just about going beyond the labels, it's going beyond the stigma, it's challenging the status quo of mental health and actually asking for change.
And that change is, it's about inclusivity and it's about access. And we were talking before we started recording that provision is available, but the thing that's the challenge is the access to that provision. So you talked about long waiting list at CAMS, or I think we've had a conversation before. I was a late diagnosed ADHD, and it took 18 months to get an appointment, and then once I got that appointment, I was still going through that process, and you're thinking, wow, like if that's as an adult, 18 months in a young person's life, it's formative. That can be devastating if we get it wrong. So we need fast access, but we also need, whilst we're waiting to deal with systemic stuff like you're saying policy people are working on, like let's address the causes and address the symptoms that are in that space so we can support people in that. Is that
well,
what
it's about early intervention, right? And it's about meeting the needs of a child when they surface, not 18 months down the line, or in the case of one of our other youth board members, 4 years down the line. That child, that youth board member, Ava, was 11 years old when she was given a 4-year waiting list for an autism assessment, so that she'll have gone through her GCSEs well into her A-level prep before even knowing whether or not she's autistic and whether or not, you know, there are tools available to help her manage that. I don't, it's about early intervention. Yeah. It really is. And I think it's also about creating a world where, or an ecosystem in the education sector where we understand how to support those children without the need for us to become therapists. Because I'm not saying that. I'm very, very clear that, you know, educators are not mental health professionals, and nor should we expect them to be. But we also have to recognise the impact on a teacher's well-being if they don't know how to address the needs, or not even address it, but support the child through that in the classroom. So we've got to just give educators far more respect than we are, and say, look, we see you and we see how this is impacting you. Now let's help to give you some tools so that will ease the burden a little bit. Some
of that is about an understanding, because if you've grown up in a certain generation, and even my generation, that conversation, that label, or that, my mum said to me when I got my diagnosis for ADHD, my mum just said, well, I just thought you were a boy. I just thought you were a boy that was just a bit cheeky. And it's not been a bad thing, has it? And I was like, no, it hasn't. Like, we're joking about ADHD being superpower. I don't always like that, but that
fact that I have multiple things going on in my brain all at once is a really good thing, but it can also be a really bad thing. But not understanding regulation and dysregulation, not being able to do that, was until somebody showed me that and gave me some tools, and I read things and I listened to things and I watched things and I got support, I didn't have any clue. And I think if I'm when I was diagnosed, I was 39 years old, and I have a whole host of coping mechanisms and masks that I could deal with. But for a lot of our young people, they have got no way of dealing with it.
But also you've got to recognise as well that they're growing up in a world that is far more complex than ours ever was. So on top of that undiagnosed ADHD, let's say, they're also navigating a world full of complexities and contradictions and information overload, and that's going to make their symptoms so much worse and much harder to deal with. And I think that's why I'm so passionate about the festival, because the festival is the themes that we cover in the festival are literally defined by our youth board. And so it's funny because I've watched the evolution from 2021 of the themes, and they've gone from having dedicated resources for teachers of special educational needs to neurodiversity in the mainstream classroom as a mainstream topic that they want you to address. Young people want to understand more about neurodiversity, and without it just being something that gets shoved into the SEN corner, right? Because the reality is that there are so many more additional needs in the mainstream classroom, and it's not necessarily a bad thing if we all know and understand about them. It's a bad thing, becomes a negative when we're all completely ill-equipped.
Yeah, absolutely, and especially I talked about this with another guest earlier today. We're in a world, and we're at a conference where we are thinking about using technology to enhance learning, and it is making a real difference. AI to support and personalise, wonderful, and somebody who is passionate about tech, works in that innovation space, really loves it. How on earth do we navigate the always-on conversation as well as the information? I heard somebody say the other day, we have got an information overload, but it's really a filter failure, because we've got an ability, or a lack of ability, almost to filter out what is and what is not good for us. Go on.
So no, I'm so passionate about this particular part of the conversation, but only because in my previous life I was a social media consultant, and I always say that I spent 10 years getting to know the algorithms that have come to basically intersect youth mental health. So it's almost like my two worlds collide. And I absolutely agree it's that filter failure. And I think that comes down to one thing, and it's about mindful intention. So when you pick up your phone to tell the time, you're not aware of the fact that you're doing that, and it's often not a conscious thing, it's often just a habitual thing. And if you've got your notifications on your phone screen, for example, you could well be into somebody's TikTok feed before you've even clocked that you've got your phone in your hand. Yeah, and for me, it's not about so I think the filter failure is right, but I think that's also is something around being mindful, and it's why I say get an analog watch. It's about creating mindful interactions with tech for specific reasons, right? Leading with intention when you pick up a device, rather than subconsciously getting caught up in news feeds and misinformation without even realising that you've got the ability as a fully grown man to actually decipher whether that's misinformation or not. You haven't even realised you're on your phone at that point. So it's about mindful.
And we were talking about, we've had conversations about distraction, and about actually distraction is twofold. So it is our inability to concentrate, that is because everything's so fast, but systemically, I work in that marketing social media space as well, so it's about attention. It's about everything that the social media is trying to keep you there. So if that is the case, and we're in that space, then what we've got a real job to do is that the algorithms, the social media companies, the marketing is designed to distract us. We've got fewer filters to be able to stop ourselves becoming distracted. But then you go, and then it exacerbates and creates that loop where you go, oh, I should have been doing this, and I've wasted 2 hours on that, and now I feel really bad about myself, and then that becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, and we move into that. And for young people, that's increasingly the case. And you look at screen time and all the other things that go with it, it becomes a challenge.
But it's funny because I think that particular conversation as well, the way that it impacts young people is it's such a prevalent conversation right now, but I just constantly hear parents saying, I will just ban smartphones from schools and like that'll fix the problem. And it's like, have you ever seen a school at 4 o'clock in the afternoon when the bell's gone and like everyone's outside? Are they looking at each other or are they looking down at their phone? They're looking down at their phone. So you ban it from the school. I'm not saying that there isn't a place to ban smartphones from schools. I absolutely do believe there's a place. If all the other parts of that holistic approach to this, to creating a solution are there. Educating the kids in the first place, embedding it in the curriculum, accountability from the parents of their own relationship, what they're role modelling at home. All of these things, as well as, yes, creating smartphone-free environments, then fine, let's talk about it. But I just think when we exclude all those parts from the conversation,
we miss the important. Yeah, agreed. And as we bring this to a close, and I know that we'll probably have multiple, in fact, I know we'll have multiple conversations beyond this. We've been asking people, can't crystal ball and say the future of education is going to be this. But what we can do is talk about what we hope for the future of education. So I wonder where that sits for you. What do you hope for? Obviously working in this charity space and supporting young people in that. What do you hope for the future?
I hope that we listen to young people more.
Wow.
I really do. Because I think that if you, and I think even, Lyra even I think maybe said it last night, but if you listen to young people and you hear what they tell you are their issues or their reflections or their insights, and you create product or content based off of that, then you will create something that resonates and relates to them, and that's powerful. But if you're an adult going, I think I know what's best for young people, it won't. And I really, really hope that a youth voice is at the centre of the future.
Love it. And Louisa, hopefully we'll be able to help support that and champion that going forward. But thank you so much for joining us on the Edufuturists podcast, and enjoy the rest of BETT. There's not much left, but enjoy the rest of it when you can.
So much. Thanks for having me.
So, day 2 of BETT, and we met briefly last night at the BETT Awards, so we'll hear about that, I'm sure. But I'm really, really pleased to be joined on the Edufuturists podcast. It's just me, Steve's gone to a meeting somewhere, so just me and Kelly. Kelly, tell us a little bit about the work that you do and, why you're at BETT.
Well, Ben, thanks for inviting me to have this really important conversation with you. So I am a mental health and wellbeing consultant, and I've worked in education for nearly 23 years, and I'm the director of Mind What Matters Limited, which essentially is a mental health and wellbeing consultancy program of support for all phases of education. So I work with educators, families and students within early years right the way through to further education, and I develop the systems and strategies and approaches to support staff wellbeing. That includes leadership wellbeing. We often forget about our leaders, our poor leaders who are really struggling at the moment. Supporting governors to effectively monitor and measure wellbeing in education. I support children and young people, and then families. Parental partnership is a huge driver within my approaches to develop a purposeful whole school approach to mental health and wellbeing in education.
Love it, and let's dig into that in a moment. You're also here at BETT with a different other hats on as well, so talk to us a little bit about the hats that you're wearing at BETT.
Yes, so I've had the absolute pleasure to speak on behalf of NAHT, National Association of Head Teachers. I'm a partner in work with them and deliver part of their CPD programme around parental engagement and EBSA. And I was invited to talk at BETT today about a really prevalent and important subject, EBSA, emotionally based school avoidance. We're seeing a dramatic incline in children and young people finding it incredibly challenging to come into school, and there are so many reasons for that. It's multifaceted, and there's not a one-size-all-fits solution. We need to Sorry.
Contextualise and
we need to consider the individual child, so having a whole person approach, that holistic approach that really identifies the contributing factors towards the behaviour symptoms, both those physical symptoms and emotional symptoms of why a young person may not be able to attend school.
And I suppose in this space then, the conversation around psychological safety, conversations around well-being that isn't pizza on a Friday, and well-being that's deeper than that. And many of our listeners will know that for many years we've championed well-being ambassadors and champions as part of our awards event that's happening again in June this year. But the conversation is about well-being and emotional support and support for young people and educators and leaders in that space. It's got to be more than tokenistic, and it feels a little bit like what you're talking about here is about that authentic training and support and ongoing community and collaboration, right? Is that part and parcel?
Exactly what I'm talking about. So I'm talking about something called contextual wellbeing, that spirit of partnership, coming together. Because if you said to me, what is wellbeing and what is mental health and education, I would say it's an opportunity where everyone has the ability to be able to thrive no matter what adversity they're experiencing. So I think we need to have a more robust system where we develop preventative and early help systems and have specialist in-school intervention, so we ensure that there's something for everyone, and we have to have clear signposting roadmaps so we know where to go outside of education. It's really important as educators we know what we are not. We are not medically trained, we're not doctors, we're not nurses, therefore it's unethical for us to think that we can provide medical level support. However, we know that there has been 1.3 million referrals into CAMHS, and only a fifth of those children and young people will be seen by CAMHS. So what we are experiencing, what I'm experiencing on my work very much on the ground in education, is we have a huge pool of need. We have a cohort of early career teachers who have never had that effective training, mental health awareness training within their teacher training programs, and we're expecting them to create that emotional container to be able to, and that social scaffolding to be able to recognise and respond to the needs within their setting. So I think we need to strip it back, we need to simplify mental health and wellbeing, and because I really do believe it's become a bit like wallpaper. There is so much being thrown at it. There's been a spotlight on mental health and wellbeing, but are we really doing enough? I think we've made it too complicated, and I think simple is the new complex. So we need to consider putting relationships and well-being at the heart of education, because you cannot learn if you are not emotionally available. So we need to look after our educators so they live well in order to lead and teach well. We need to help young people develop the intrinsic toolkits through specialist research-based social and emotional literacy programs, and developing character strengths to recognise them and understand their emotions, so to be able to name, to tame their emotions. And we need to work with parents and carers to create a collaborative partnership where we have that consistent approach for mental health and well-being that helps young people develop resilience, resourcefulness and mental fitness.
Wow, I think, and it's a job, it's everybody's job. Everybody says that phrase, safeguarding is everybody's responsibility. It feels like the other mantra needs to be mental wellness and emotional well-being for young people and for educators, leaders, is everybody's responsibility. And I do think, I wonder whether there is, and we don't want to necessarily talk about causes of why it's spiking and inclining in terms of absences and attendance at school, and whether school is fit for purpose, and that could be a whole conversation, right? But one of the things that really jumps out to me is this always on mentality. So like social media means we're always on, gaming means we're always on, the ability to be contacted wherever you are. There's no downtime, doesn't seem to exist. And I wonder whether there's a pressure that sits on many of us who we weren't designed to be always on, and we certainly weren't designed and evolved, whatever we want to think about that, to be not living community. Because one of the other things about that is that if we think about ancestry, we think about tribal, there was always older generations younger generations, middle generations, all working, learning from each other. And now that's the separation from globalisation. I was a sociology and religious studies teacher in my previous life, and that globalisation has meant there's been a separation. And then communities being formed online, and communities being formed in different formats. And then the breakdown of a lot of our community institutions, whether that's religious institutions, scouts, all them things that kids used to do, seem to have not disintegrated, but it seemed to have declined, right? So I've rambled a little bit, but I'm with you on this, because as somebody who's had his own challenges with mental health, and that were quite documented, quite open around that, and certainly worked and helped and supported a lot of teachers and young people who are challenged in this space, it feels like the work that you're doing and the passion that you have in this space is really needed. And what is it that, if somebody's listening to this, what is it that, how they can get involved in, how can they champion what you're doing, and what would you maybe suggest might be a way into that?
I think my personal driver is I experienced trauma, extreme trauma as a child. So I'm an adult survivor of trauma, I have ACEs.
Me too.
I have a stutter. I probably should have been diagnosed with a neurodiversity, but I really believe in celebrating your hidden talents and unique qualities. I really do believe, and I champion, that everybody has the right to have the opportunity to thrive no matter what adversity you face. So as educators, if we can shine a spotlight on children to help them see themselves through the light of positivity, because if we think about social media and the amount of time that young people are spending online, what we're experiencing is, in the real world, this isolation nation. And we're born as human beings, we've been designed to connect, we're social beings. And I think the future of education needs to involve more connection, more collaboration, more empowerment. And I think that is the ingredients, and that's the remedy and the antidote for stress. We also need to understand that we can't always be switched on. And I talk a lot about pause moments. So these are moments where you just pause to be with yourself, to be with your thoughts, to be with your feelings, without any demands to make everything okay. And I think what I really worry about is we're always looking for a reason of why we feel the way we feel. But what if the future is just to accept that we have a whole plethora of feelings, and sometimes our feelings are normal responses to abnormal situations, i.e. the pandemic? Do we really need to label ourselves with anxiety and other mental health conditions? Isn't it more empowering to say, let's use this challenge and turn it into purposeful action or an opportunity for growth?
And you know, I'm smiling, and people who are listening to this podcast can't see me smiling, because
I'm smiling too.
It feels very much like these are the necessary conversations. I was a late diagnosed ADHD. Most people who meet me within 30 seconds realise, or 39 seconds realise, and go, but then 39 years I didn't know that. And so, interestingly, we had a conversation yesterday with some specialists in that inclusion space, and there was a real interesting element around the labels, and about whether the label, they don't want to remove labels and don't remove diagnoses, but actually whether they become, they're just the ADHD, or they're the kid with autism, or they're the kid with anxiety. And what we'll do is we'll give them a little room, give them a little bit of technology to support them in that way, and maybe an LSA that can help them, a safe person to go and speak to. And that's right, I understand all that. But actually, fundamentally, there's a cultural shift that probably needs to happen. It's not just a DFE policy, it's not just a wellbeing strategy, that's a culture. And we talk about this on the podcast quite a lot, about culture before strategy, and building a culture where the norms and behaviours and values that we say are important, that we measure and we treasure, is about, it's okay not to be okay, and if you're not okay and you need to pause, that's also okay. No is an acceptable response, and wait is also an acceptable response. And we've got a responsibility to each other, like we're humans on a planet who have a responsibility to each other, whether we like that or not. We're a community, and not always everybody cares about that, and I hear that, and a lot of people are individualistic, but as a wolf pack, we've called ourselves the wolf pack community, and you've seen stickers, part of the pack. We're in this rewriting the rules as well, the conversation we're having, and as part of that, we think there's a culture that allows for And does that resonate with the work that you're doing and what you're seeing?
Definitely. You know, the culture sets the tone. So the culture of leadership, the culture of how that message is delivered through teams. And I think a key element of feeling immersed into a positive culture is having a sense of belonging. So taking it back to the topic of my talk here today at BETT, EBSA, no matter if a child is able to walk through those front gates into your school, they should always feel like they belong to your school community. So we should never forget children, and I think we need to get better at noticing that whether you have an SEND need or whether you have any type of neurodiversity, for example, I'm dyslexic. I celebrate that I am a dyslexic thinking skilled dyslexic thinker. So let's try and think about, if we look at the proportion of children and young people with either an SEMH need or an SEND need in education, I'm looking at around 50 to 60% per class. What if the future of education is that we get so good at diagnosing that turns into 80, 90%?
Wow, so you're flipping it.
I'm flipping it. This will be the norm.
Wow. And then the personalisation and inclusion literally means that, doesn't it?
Yes.
And interestingly, our good friends at Text Help, now Everywhere, they talk about education for everyone and universal design for learning. And this applies in this. It's not just about SEND in this space. It's not just about students with additional needs. And actually, I was out in Abu Dhabi recently, and Abu Dhabi they call students with additional needs students of determination, and people of determination are those with additional needs. And I was like, I like that phrase. I like that. If you're dealing with an additional need, students with determination, and everybody is. So our final thing, and it's kind of come up in what we've been talking about. We don't want to create, there's no way that we can do that crystal ball gazing and thinking, oh, this is the future of education, what it looks like. But you've hinted at there about 80 to 90% what it would be good at diagnosing and support. But we've been asking the question is like, what is the hope for the future of education? And there's a lot in what you've said there. But what is your hope maybe for the future of education?
I think the hope for the future of education is to create an inclusive education that doesn't get fixated on labels and EHCP plans. It looks at the whole child on an individual level, and we are preparing our teachers to develop holistic and welcoming classroom environments. But the most importantly, what needs to come back is we need to flood our children with inspiration, motivation and hope for a bright future.
And we've got an opportunity to do that. Well, Kelly, it's been wonderful talking to you, and I feel like this could be one of those conversations we could do forever, and hopefully you'll be able to come back on the podcast and do a longer conversation about what you're doing. But keep doing what you're doing. It's going to make a difference, and it's been great hearing the impact of what you've been doing and the work that you continue to do. So long may that continue, and long may wellbeing initiatives in schools be beyond pizza and a nice little assembly of the head teacher, where it becomes something that we care about and we make change. So keep doing what you're doing. Thanks for joining us on the Edufuturists podcast at BETT. Cool. Well, we're here towards the end of day 2 of BETT, and we are in a lovely, cool space. By cool, I mean cold, not cool and smart. With Brian. And Brian, do you want to just tell us a little bit about your role and tell us a little bit about you?
I'm the Director of Education, Thought Leadership, and Student Success, which really means at Adobe I help build programs that set students up for success in the classroom and careers and beyond. And the thought leadership piece is we get to do really cool independent research, working with schools and campuses and other organizations to really measure the impact of both creativity, but creativity with technology and how that can help students.
Yeah, I think it's that whole thing of actually thought leadership is a developing thing actually, and or for many actually research in education has been there for many years. Technology has been evolving for many years. We still hear that whole thing of EdTech and COVID, and there's a response. Well, like AI, it's been existing for a long period of time. It's coming to the forefront.
It didn't come out of COVID, did it?
No, it didn't. But I think that whole thing in terms of like leadership thought piece around actually implementation, aspect and investment, but also impact of that investment, I think, and it's great that Adobe have been doing it. They've been in the industry for such a long period of time, supported education for such a long time. So a role like yours, what does that look like? I suppose day in, day out, you'd probably just say different, but what does that look like generally, and do you see different nations doing different things around it?
Yeah, it looks like a couple things. One, really large kind of global working groups that we stay connected with. So we're on the World Economic Forum's Education 4.0 Alliance, where really we bring leaders from different schools and countries and companies from across the world to sort of compare notes and see what's happening, especially when it comes to the relationship between what schools are teaching students, what skills they're acquiring, and is it actually helping them get jobs. So a lot of it is working with those large working groups, and then spending time with teachers, hearing what they're curious about, the things that they want to try in their classroom, the hypotheses they have about how they can help students, and then testing them. Because thankfully, more and more the bar is being raised. Teachers in schools are saying, all right, there's a new technology, or there's a new approach, show us the data. Like, show us that it works, because we don't want to trial run something where we don't have any evidence it's actually going to impact the things we care about. So it's finding all of those kind of burning questions and then partnering with schools and campuses to actually work with their students, do kind of A/B tests and see if you use this kind of technology or change your instruction, what actually comes out of it.
Absolutely, and Adobe have been in this tech world, not just ed tech world, they've been in this tech world a long time.
That's right.
Got a great standing and a great reputation, and what is really exciting for us to see as education background, but obviously in this conversation now around the future of education, where this might go, is the pace at how things are changing, but thoughtful pace. So like things like Adobe Express and decisions around availability for young people and what's the safe and ethical thing to do in that space, the data protection things that sit in there, the education that needs to happen around AI safety and AI literacy, and that's really clear in what Adobe are doing, and it's really clear in the tools that are available to educators, but also available in moderation and safely with students as well, right?
We're really proud of how we design our technology, because first and foremost, we're a company of creators for creators. So if we ever made a technology that gets in their way or prevents them from doing the things that they want to do, like, we haven't lived up to our mission.
Yep.
And so when we first started creating our first model, Firefly, which is our generative AI image creator, that was really the heart of where we started. We started with our community members who are creators and said, what are the big things that stand in their way? What are those mundane, repetitive tasks, pixel pushing, as it were, that if we could remove that, they can do twice what they could do otherwise. Or that list of final polishes or really exciting things that they wanted to do, like, this is going to help them. And then starting from there, the really exciting thing about this technology is there's the creators with a capital C, and there's the creators with a small c. The fact that everyone's creative. Someone wants to try a new idea. Someone wants to try something out. They've always said, this slide, it's not very good. I wish I could find another image for it, but I don't have time and I'm not a graphic designer. What if these tools could actually say, hey, if you're a math student or a science student or a literature student, you're just as creative as the art student.
Yep.
What if you could just take that idea and bring it to life? And so the combination has then said, and we're also going to teach you some important things about this technology. Did you know that what you make is important? It came from you, it's sacred, it's special. We don't train our model on that. We don't train our models on anything you make. We didn't train our models on the internet or other people's IP. We trained our models using our own data sets that customers gave us permission to use some of their images for, that are highly diverse. Like, we love telling the story actually of, look, there's a lot of AI tools out there. Here's the checklist of things you should be asking. Like, was it made responsibly? Is it safe to use? And actually, if I create something awesome and put it out in the world, do I have the right to do that? Do I own the rights to this? Not least when they want to make their own businesses or they walk into a company as a new hire, we want to make sure they're not sending images out on social media, paid marketing, or YouTube, and then suddenly, oh my gosh, they're generating revenue on things they actually didn't have the commercial right to use. Yeah. We thought of all those things holistically, and that's what's kind of really exciting with teachers. Some are saying, yes, I like the creativity, I like the AI. I actually just want them to think about AI literacy, and this is a tool that kind of checks all the boxes and can create that conversation so that, just like media literacy, they're now actually, whatever tool they're using, they're asking these questions that they didn't even know to ask before.
Yeah, and I think that continuous development, that creative element that you were built the products on, large C and little c, but also that thing of cautious, not overly cautious, but also that thing of not just young people right now, but also as they step in and develop those skills, preparing them for actually in the world of just the world, not just industry, but lots of different things, of an understanding of the ethical reasons to use things. Actually, where do they stand from a standpoint in terms of their own footprint, somebody else's footprint, what can they use, what are they not allowed to use? All of those elements are really, really good to hear. And I suppose as we wrap, we ask this question, and it's really difficult as we stargaze to then say vision for education and all these things. What do you tell us your vision? But actually what we've been asking people simply is, what is your hope for education in the future? What do you hope it looks like, feels like, or just what is your hope for the future of education?
My hope is that every student stays as creative as they were in preschool or kindergarten for the rest of their lives. And that by keeping that level of creativity, they don't close doors. They have amazing ideas of things that they could become, businesses that they could start, passion projects that they do. And instead of all those closed doors that say, oh, but I can't do this, or I'd have to get a degree in that, or first I'd have to learn this skill, or I'm actually not very good at this. We stop hearing as much of that, and we start seeing creative confidence in the next generation that says, you know what? If I wanted to make my own business, I could do that. Oh wait, I'm gonna need probably a website and a logo and a business card. I'm gonna have to have social media. You know what, I can do that. I can actually make a logo, I could make a website. That we start seeing more opportunity, especially equitable opportunity for students who, unfortunately when it comes to creativity and creative skills, so easily and early start narrowing down and winnowing down opportunities for themselves.
Yeah, well, it's a beautiful way to finish, actually, thinking about never losing that creativity. We often talk about that study that talked about 95 or 98% of children under the age of 5 would be classed as geniuses, and then by the time they leave school, that's in the teens percentage, and it's so sad, right? But that ability and that hope for education that allows that sounds like a really noble thing, but also it's a thing that you're actively trying to make happen at Adobe. So Brian, thank you for joining us on the Edufuturists podcast at BETT, and we hope you enjoy the final day, and thank you for being with us.
Yeah, thanks guys.
Thank you.
Futures at